The biggest cost of AI in your business right now is not using it. I know that sounds counterintuitive. Most conversations about AI costs start with the investment, the tools, the implementation, the time. I want to flip that conversation today because I think most companies are asking the wrong question. The question most companies ask is, what would it cost us to implement AI? And they look at that number, the subscriptions, the consulting, the training time, and they hesitate. That hesitation feels responsible. It feels disciplined. But here's what they're not calculating. What is it costing us to not use AI? Every week that your team is doing manually what AI could automate, that's a cost. Every proposal that takes 5 days when it could take 1, that's a cost. Every hour a senior person spends compiling reports instead of making decisions, that's a cost. That cost doesn't show up on a bill. Nobody sends you an invoice for inefficiency, but it's real, it's accumulating, and it's compounding every single month. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine you have a slow leak in your building's plumbing. The drip is barely visible, no emergency. You could fix it, but the repair has a cost, so you decide to wait. Meanwhile, the water is still running. The walls are absorbing moisture. The damage is building. 6 months later, the repair is 3 times more expensive than it would have been. Not fixing the leak was its own kind of expensive. That's what not using AI looks like in your business. Let me break down the 3 hidden costs in most B2B businesses right now. Hidden cost number 1, manual processes. Walk through your week in your head right now. How many things get done the same way every time, manually, by someone who is paid to think? Compiling status reports, formatting proposals, pulling data from multiple systems, building the same deck template over and over, writing follow-up emails from scratch. Each of those tasks is costing you in 2 ways. First, the direct labor costs. Real hours by real people who are paid for their expertise being used on commodity tasks. Second, the opportunity costs. Every hour spent on a repeatable manual task is an hour not spent on client relationships, strategic decisions, or revenue-generating activity. That gap between what your team is capable of and what they're actually doing is the first hidden cost. Hidden cost number 2, slow operations. Speed is not just a convenience in B2B, it is a competitive differentiator. When you can respond to a prospect's inquiry in 2 hours instead of 2 days, your close rate goes up. When you can deliver a project in 3 weeks instead of 6, your client satisfaction goes up. When you can iterate on a strategy in real time, your decision quality goes up. Slow operations don't just feel inefficient internally. They cost you externally, in deals, in relationships, in reputation. Hidden cost number 3, missed opportunities. This is the hardest one to see because it's invisible. You never see the deal you didn't close because your proposal was late. You never see the client who quietly moved to a competitor because your delivery was inconsistent. You never see the hire you couldn't make because margin wasn't there. Missed opportunity never shows up on a P&L, but it shapes the trajectory of your business every single year. Here's the reframe I want you to walk away with. AI is not a cost center. It is a margin multiplier. When you invest in AI correctly with a clear strategy, you're not spending money on technology. You're buying back capacity. You're compressing time. You're removing friction from your revenue process. And those things compound. A team that gets back 10 hours a week of productive time doesn't just save 10 hours. They use those 10 hours to generate revenue and improve client experience. The multiplier effect is real, but only if the investment is strategic. Random AI spend is still a cost center. Strategic AI investment is a margin multiplier. Let me do some quick math that most CEOs haven't done yet. Take manual reporting. In most companies, teams spend between 8 and 12 hours per week. Let's call it 10 hours a week. That's 500 hours a year. At a fully loaded labor cost of $60 an hour, that's $30,000 a year just to compile data. AI can automate most of that. Now do that math for proposals, for client onboarding, for project status updates, for contract review. Across 3 or 4 workflows in a company doing 20 to 50 million in revenue, you're looking at 6 figures of recovered capacity every single year. That's not a technology story. That's a business story. And it starts with asking the right question. Not what does AI cost, but what is not using AI costing me right now? When you flip that question, when you start measuring the cost of inaction instead of the cost of action, everything changes. Because suddenly, it isn't about if it's worth it, it's about which inefficiencies you're going to stop tolerating. And that's a much more empowering place to start. Because once you see the hidden costs clearly, AI stops feeling like an expense and starts feeling like the obvious answer. Not because it's a magic solution, but because the cost of not having it is already visible. Do the math. I want to give you a simple exercise you can do this week before you buy anything. I call it the hidden cost audit, and it takes about 90 minutes. Step 1, list every task in your business that happens more than once a week and takes more than 30 minutes to complete. Just make the list, don't filter it yet. Step 2, for each item, write down 3 things. How many hours per week does this take? Who does it, and what's their hourly cost? And could AI compress it? Step 3. Multiply the hours by the cost for each item, then add them all up. That number, that total, is your baseline hidden cost. It's the amount you're spending on work AI could do faster. For most companies doing 10 to 50 million, that number lands between $150,000 and $500,000 per year. And when you see that number, it stops being a question of, can we afford to do this? And starts being a question of, can we afford not to? Do the audit. Here's the frame I want you to carry out of this video. Every business decision has 2 costs, the cost of acting and the cost of not acting. Most companies are very good at calculating the cost of acting. They're thorough about it, but they almost never calculate the cost of not acting. And with AI, the cost of not acting is quietly enormous. It shows up as manual hours that never get recovered, as proposals that go out late, as deals that don't close, as clients who churn because the experience wasn't consistent enough, as a team that's working at full capacity but still not growing. None of those appear on an invoice, but they're real, and they compound. The moment you start calculating both sides of the equation, the decision usually becomes very clear. Let's do that math together. And then let's build a plan that converts those invisible costs into recovered margin and puts that margin back into growing your business. That's the conversation I want to have. If you want to calculate exactly where AI should be driving margin in your business, book a strategy session. We'll identify the hidden costs and build a plan. We'll turn AI from a budget line into a return. Link is below.